The first and most fundamental Stoic habit we should pass on to our children is Epictetus's famous dichotomy of control. This Greek philosopher, who went from being a slave to becoming one of the most influential thinkers in history, taught that there are only two kinds of things in life: those that depend on us and those that do not depend on us. In my practice, I constantly see how well-intentioned parents raise anxious children because they transmit the false belief that they can control everything that happens to them. We tell a child, "Get good grades and everything will be fine," when the reality is more complex. Grades depend on effort, yes, but also on the teacher, on how they feel that day, on factors that are completely beyond their control. A Stoic parent teaches differently. Instead of saying, "You have to win the game," they say, "You have to give your best in the game." See the difference? One generates anxiety and pressure, the other, empowerment and calm. I remember the case of Carmen, a mother who came to my office worried because her 10-year-old son became terribly frustrated when it rained and he couldn't play soccer. We worked together to teach him this fundamental distinction. Instead of getting angry at the rain, something he obviously cannot control, he learned to focus his energy on what he could do: train at home, study soccer tactics, or simply enjoy a different kind of day. The key lies in the language we use. When our child comes home crying because a classmate said something unpleasant, the Stoic response is not, "Don't worry, I'll speak to his mother," nor, "That kid is bad." The Stoic response is, "I understand you feel sad about what he said. What he said is not in your hands, but what is in your hands is how you decide to feel about it and how you are going to act." This does not mean we ignore real problems or fail to protect our children when necessary. It means we give them the most powerful tool that exists: the ability to distinguish between what they can influence and what they cannot, so they invest their emotional energy only in the former. When we teach this distinction from an early age, we are forming adults who do not wear themselves out fighting windmills, who do not develop anxiety over things beyond their reach, and who channel all their strength where it can truly make a difference: their own actions, attitudes, and decisions. Before continuing with the second habit, if this content is useful and you want to raise more resilient and balanced children, I invite you to like this video and subscribe to the channel. The Stoic principles we are sharing can completely transform family dynamics, and the more parents apply them, the more children grow with that inner strength our society so badly needs. Your like and subscription help me continue sharing tools that really work. The second fundamental Stoic habit is something neuroscientists have recently confirmed. Our children learn to regulate their emotions by observing how we regulate ours. The Stoics called this prosoche, which means continuous attention or vigilance over our own mental states. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But here is what is crucial for parents. Our children do not learn this from our words, but from our actions, especially when we are under pressure. I will tell you something that deeply impacted me in my practice. A mother described how her 8-year-old son had terrible outbursts of anger when something didn't go as he expected. During our sessions, I realized something. Every time she told me about these episodes, she also described how she herself had lost her temper that same week because of traffic, a work call, or some household problem. Children are emotional sponges. When they see Dad get furious because the soccer team lost, they are learning that emotions are something that happened to us, not something we can manage. When they see Mom ruminating for days because a friend didn't invite her to a dinner, they are internalizing that we are victims of external circumstances. A Stoic parent does exactly the opposite. When faced with a stressful situation, they use what the Stoics called the view from above. They observe themselves from a broader perspective and ask, "What can I learn from this situation? How can I respond in a way that aligns with my values?" This does not mean repressing emotions or pretending we feel nothing. The Stoics were not emotional robots. Seneca, one of the most important Stoic philosophers, wrote extensively about his own emotional struggles. The difference lies in how we process and express those emotions. Imagine this scene. You are in the car with your child, and another driver makes a dangerous maneuver. The instinctive reaction might be to shout, gesture, or comment on how badly that person drives. The Stoic response would be to take a deep breath and say something like, Wow, that driver must be in a hurry or going through a hard time. I'm glad we're all okay. Your child has just witnessed something extraordinary. They have seen that one can choose the emotional response. They have learned that between what happens to us and how we react, there is a space where our freedom resides. I practice this consciously with my own experiences. When something does not turn out as I expect, I hear myself say out loud, "Well, this wasn't what I expected, but let's see what I can learn from this situation." I don't do it only for me, but because I know that any child who hears me is learning that adversities are opportunities for growth, not tragedies that define us. Stoic emotional regulation has 3 components we can model. First, the conscious pause. Before reacting, we take a moment to process what is happening. Children learn that they do not have to be automatic in their responses. Second, cognitive reappraisal. Instead of seeing obstacles as problems, we see them as training. As Marcus Aurelius said, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Third, virtuous action. We choose to respond in a way that reflects our deepest values, regardless of how we feel in the moment. When children grow up seeing this model day after day, they develop what psychologists call emotional resilience, not because they do not feel difficult emotions, but because they have learned they are capable of navigating them with wisdom. The third Stoic habit that will transform your children's mindset is something Seneca expressed masterfully. Every new situation is a new opportunity for virtue. Stoic parents do not shield their children from difficulties. They teach them to extract wisdom and strength from every obstacle. In my clinical experience, I have observed something concerning in our current society. More and more parents try to create a perfect bubble around their children, eliminating any source of stress or frustration. The intention is loving, but the result is devastating. We are creating a generation that collapses at the first real obstacle because it never developed the emotional muscles necessary for life. The Stoics had a fascinating concept called amor fati, which means love of fate. It is not about being masochistic or seeking suffering, but about developing the capacity to find value and growth in any experience life presents. I will tell you about Miguel, a 12-year-old boy whose parents came to my office because he was having problems at school. He had failed math for the first time in his life, and his reaction was extreme. He refused to return to class. He said he was stupid and would never be able to pass that subject. We worked with the whole family to transform this experience of failure into an opportunity for growth. Instead of dramatizing the failing grade or looking for external culprits, we helped Miguel see it as valuable information. What was this experience teaching him? That he needed to change his study method, that he could ask for help, that intelligence is not fixed but develops with effort. Stoic parents use specific language when their children face difficulties. Instead of saying, "What bad luck," or "Life is unfair," they say things like, "This is interesting. What do you think we can learn from what happened?" Or, "I wonder what strength you are going to develop by overcoming this challenge." This does not mean minimizing the child's pain or frustration. The Stoics recognized the importance of emotions and never preached emotional suppression, but they firmly believed that after feeling, we must think, and after thinking, we must act constructively. I vividly remember a conversation with Claudia, a mother who had applied these principles when her 9-year-old daughter was not selected for the school gymnastics team. Instead of consoling her by saying that the judges didn't know what they were doing or that the system was unfair, she sat with her and helped her process the experience in a stoic way. "You know what, honey," she said, "this situation is giving us very valuable information. It's telling us that if you really want to be on that team, we need to find ways to improve your technique. It's also teaching us something important about life. Sometimes we don't get what we want on the first try, but that doesn't mean we should give up." The girl, with tears in her eyes but with new determination, replied, "So what do we do to improve?" In that moment, a Stoic growth mindset was born. The Stoics also practiced something called premeditatio malorum, or visualization of adversities. This means that they occasionally imagine difficult scenarios, not to attract negativity, but to prepare mentally and develop the tranquility that comes from knowing they can handle any situation. With children, we can adapt this practice positively. For example, before a school presentation, instead of only saying, "You'll do great," we can say, "And you know what? If you get nervous, or if you forget something, that will be okay too. Nerves mean you care, and making mistakes is part of learning. Whatever happens, we will be proud of your courage to try. This mental preparation does not create anxiety. It creates confidence. The child knows they have internal resources to handle any outcome. They have developed what modern psychologists call self-efficacy, the belief in their own capacity to face challenges. Stoic parents also celebrate differently. They do not only celebrate external successes, but especially the moments when their children show stoic virtues, when they persist in difficulty, when they help others, when they act with integrity, even when it is hard. "I am very proud of you," a stoic mother tells her child, "not only because you got a good grade, but because I see how you worked these days, how you asked for help when you needed it, and how you didn't give up when it got tough. Those qualities will help you all your life." The fourth essential Stoic habit is something Marcus Aurelius practiced religiously every morning and every night: the conscious cultivation of gratitude and full presence. The Stoics understood something modern neuroscience has confirmed. Our mind naturally tends toward negativity and worry about the future, but we can train it to find abundance and peace in the present moment. In my work with families, I have observed a concerning phenomenon. Today's children, constantly bombarded by external stimuli and performance pressures, are losing the ability to find satisfaction in simple experiences. They live in a constant state of, "When I have this, I will be happy," or "When that happens, I will be calm." Stoic parents interrupt this pattern consciously and systematically. They do not wait for gratitude to arise naturally. They cultivate it as a deliberate practice, like someone training a muscle. I will tell you about a family I met in my practice, the Martinez family. The father, Carlos, had begun to apply Stoic principles after reading Marcus Aurelius during a difficult period in his life. He decided to institute what he called Stoic 5 minutes every night after dinner. During these 5 minutes, each family member shared 3 things: something they were grateful for that day, something they had learned, and something good they had done for someone else. At first, the children rolled their eyes and gave automatic answers, but after several weeks, something extraordinary began to happen. The children began consciously looking during the day for moments of gratitude, learning opportunities, and ways to help others. Their brains had begun to reconfigure their attention patterns. Instead of focusing automatically on what was missing or on what had gone wrong, they were training their minds to notice the abundance and the opportunities for growth around them. Stoic gratitude is different from superficial gratitude. It is not about mechanically repeating, "I'm grateful for my family," or "I'm grateful to have food." The Stoics practiced what we could call conscious gratitude, a deep and specific appreciation of present experiences and relationships. Marcus Aurelius wrote things like, "When you wake up in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." This was not romantic poetry, but a deliberate psychological practice to counter the mind's natural tendency toward complaint and dissatisfaction. With children, we can adapt this practice in very concrete ways. Instead of generically asking, "How was school?" we can ask, "Tell me about a moment today when you felt truly present and connected with what you were doing." Or, "Was there something today that you usually take for granted but realized you appreciate?" Stoic parents also model this conscious presence in everyday activities. When they are cooking with their children, they do not do it while checking the phone and thinking about the to-do list. They immerse themselves completely in the experience, the aroma of the ingredients, the texture of the dough, the conversation that naturally arises when 2 people are truly present together. Seneca had a fascinating exercise: live each day as if it were your last, not in a morbid sense, but as a way to fully appreciate what we have. With children, we can adapt this by occasionally asking, "If this were the last day we could spend together at home, what would you want us to do? What would you want us to talk about?" These questions, when asked from love and presence, do not create anxiety. They create moments of deep connection and help children value ordinary experiences in extraordinary ways. I vividly remember the testimony of Elena, a mother who had begun to practice Stoic presence with her teenage son. "Before," she told me, "our conversations in the car were mainly about tasks, schedules, and problems. Now, when we go together, I turn off the radio and really talk with him. I ask what caught his attention that day, what made him smile, what made him think." The conversations that arise are incredible. The Stoics also understood something crucial about the present. It is the only place where we can truly act. The past has already passed and cannot be changed. The future is uncertain and, in large part, beyond our control. But this moment right now is completely in our hands. When we teach our children to fully inhabit the present, we give them an extraordinary gift, the ability to find peace and purpose regardless of their external circumstances. A child who has learned to be present does not constantly need external stimuli to feel well. They can find interest and satisfaction in a conversation, in observing nature, in the process of learning something new. This capacity for presence also protects them against two of the emotional epidemics of our time: anxiety about the future and depression about the past. A present child is connected with their real power, which always exists in the now. The fifth and final Stoic habit that will transform your children is something Epictetus considered fundamental: understanding that our well-being is intrinsically connected to the well-being of others. The Stoics believe that human beings are naturally social and that we find our deepest purpose when we contribute to the common good. In my experience working with families, I have observed something fascinating. The most resilient and emotionally balanced children are not those whose parents have focused exclusively on their individual happiness, but those who have grown up with a clear sense of purpose that transcends their own immediate needs. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What is not good for the hive cannot be good for the bee." When applied to parenting, this principle creates children who instinctively understand that their well-being is connected to the well-being of their family, their community, and ultimately, the world. Stoic parents do not raise self-centered children. From a very early age, they involve their children in acts of service and contribution. But this goes far beyond occasional charity or donating toys at Christmas. It is about cultivating a service mindset that permeates everyday life. I will tell you about Anna, a 10-year-old whose parents had adopted this Stoic philosophy of service. Each week, Anna had what her family called contribution time. Some weeks, she wrote letters to seniors in a nearby residence. Other times, she helped her younger brother with homework. Occasionally, she prepared sandwiches for homeless people they saw on the way to school. What was extraordinary was not the actions themselves, but how these experiences had shaped the way Anna saw the world. Instead of constantly asking, "What can I get?" her natural question had become, "How can I help?" This perspective naturally protected her from self-pity and excessive anxiety about her own problems. The Stoics understood something modern positive psychology has confirmed. Giving and serving others activates the same neural circuits as the most intense pleasure experiences. But unlike hedonistic pleasure, which is fleeting and requires ever greater stimuli, the satisfaction that comes from service is sustainable and deep. Seneca expressed it beautifully. Some acts of kindness may seem trivial, but their effects are powerful. A seed is a small thing, but when it finds the right soil, it unfolds its strength and grows to enormous proportions. With small children, this can be as simple as teaching them to notice when someone needs help and to act immediately. Did you see how Mom's hands were full with the shopping bags? What do you think we could do to help her? We do not wait for the child to offer help spontaneously. We train their capacity for observation and their instinct to serve. As they grow, we can involve them in more sophisticated forms of contribution. Teenagers can participate in family projects to help elderly neighbors, teach skills they have mastered to younger children, or use their particular talents to benefit their community. I especially remember the case of David, a 15-year-old who was exceptionally good with technology. Instead of allowing this talent to become merely a form of personal entertainment, his parents encouraged him to offer free computer classes to older adults at the local library. This experience not only gave him a sense of purpose, but also developed his confidence, his communication skills, and his understanding of intergenerational importance. Stoic parents also model this service behavior in their own lives. It is not about grand heroic gestures, but about a constant attitude of consideration toward others. When a Stoic parent sees a neighbor struggling with heavy bags, they do not only think, "What a pity." They act, approach, and offer help. Children who grow up seeing this model learn that being human means being available to others. This also applies within the family itself. Siblings learn to genuinely celebrate each other's successes. Instead of feeling jealous, they are taught that one family member's success is a success for all. When a sibling is going through a difficult time, everyone mobilizes to support them, not out of obligation, but because they understand viscerally that they are connected. The Stoics had a beautiful concept called sympathia, which means universal interconnection. They believed that all human beings are part of a great cosmic community and that hurting others is ultimately hurting ourselves, while helping others is helping ourselves. When children internalize this truth, they develop what psychologists call a prosocial orientation. They do not need to be convinced or rewarded to help others. They do it naturally because they understand it is the most intelligent and satisfying way to live. This approach also protects them against one of the most serious problems of our time: narcissism and the obsession with self-esteem based on external comparisons. A child who has found purpose in serving others has a much more solid and sustainable source of self-esteem than those whose self-esteem depends on being better than others. As Epictetus said, "We were born to work together like feet, hands, and eyes, like the rows of teeth, upper and lower." When our children understand this deeply, they become not only happier people, but true agents of positive change in the world. These 5 Stoic habits are not just parenting techniques. They are a philosophy of life that has proven its value for more than 2,000 years. When we apply them consistently, we not only raise stronger and more resilient children, but we transform the entire family dynamic and create a legacy of wisdom that our children will pass on to future generations. Remember that implementing these habits is a gradual process. The Stoics valued progress over perfection, and we as parents must apply that same patience and compassion toward ourselves. Every small step toward more Stoic parenting is a victory worth celebrating. Children who grow up with these principles develop that inner strength we all desire: the ability to stay centered in the midst of chaos, to find opportunities in obstacles, to live with gratitude and purpose, and to contribute positively to the world around them. Now, I would like to hear from you. Which of these 5 Stoic habits resonates most with your experience as a parent? Have you noticed any situation in your daily life where you could apply these principles? Or perhaps you are already practicing some of them without realizing they had Stoic roots. Leave me a comment below telling me about your experience. I love to learn the different ways families are integrating this age-old wisdom into their day-to-day lives. Your story could inspire other parents who are beginning this beautiful path toward more conscious and balanced parenting. And remember, each day is a new opportunity to model the strength, wisdom, and compassion you want to see in your children. As Marcus Aurelius said, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. And I would add, the best inheritance is to raise children who are better versions of ourselves. Thank you for accompanying me on this journey toward wiser and more conscious parenthood.